Man, college football is finally back. Yeah, week 0 is here, but you know what? This is the weekend. Labor Day weekend is the real weekend that college football kicks off. We've got a special guest on Big B Sports Talk today. We got our man from Locked On Big 12, Drake. He is going to be joining us, talking to us about all things college football, but more importantly, all things Big 12. So let's get into this. All right, Drake Toll, what is going on, my man? Thank you for taking the time out today, man. How are you doing?
Dude, Big B, it is 108 degrees in Waco, Texas. So I am fired up to be in here in the air conditioner and on your show, man. I'm any invite to talk college football, I'm all over it. And especially with a fellow Big 12 fan, I'm pumped.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate that, man. It was we had a cold front come through Frisco today, so it only got up to 98. So
Yeah.
it was a nice cold front, and I'm like, you know what? These 110 temperatures, they can't last forever. Turns out they didn't. So doing well today. So thank you, man, for taking the time. First off, I just want tell everybody where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Locked On Big 12 on Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Drake Toll on Instagram, or Drake Toll. I don't even know. I'm on there sometimes. Any of those places, all things Locked On Big 12. We're doing a lot of big stuff. Announcing a new show this week. You're the first to know. I haven't said that on anybody's show anywhere, even my own. We're announcing a new big show this week too. So stay tuned for awesome announcements. Locked On Big 12, wherever you find your podcasts.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate you giving us the time today. So let's just get into this. So the Big 12, lot of changes, just topsy-turvy. We kind of knew this was going to happen, with all the realignment stuff that's going on. Just kind of give people the rundown. I mean, I have my own opinion on where the Big 12 is, but from a Big 12 expert, kind of give us the rundown on where the Big 12 is at today.
Big B, the Big 12 is in as good of a spot as the conference has ever been in. And I get it. The revenue might not be there without a Texas and Oklahoma. You don't have Missouri of old and Texas A&M. Colorado's back. Nebraska is gone. You could make the case that the Big 12 circa 2005 is as strong as it's ever been. But I'd say right now, where 16 teams all want to be here. 16 teams have come together to join forces to – they didn't save a dying conference in the Pac-12, but they saved some founding concrete member institutions that deserve to stay Power 5. To the point now the Big 12 is so strong, there are teams knocking on the door, and a la Noah's Ark, Brett Yormark, is that sacrilegious? A la Brett Yormark, Noah's Ark, he's got to say no, right? The Big 12 is now turning teams away, where 3 years ago, we looked around at each other and thought, well, it was fun, but we're going to end up just like the logo behind me, the Southwest Conference, and implode. And, hopefully Baylor can go to the Pac-12 and Kansas State can go to the ACC or the Big Ten and Iowa State can go to the Big Ten. Everybody's looking for their next landing spot. And instead, now 2 years later, the Big 12 has solidified itself as the third best conference in college athletics as the ACC moves over into a realm where Stanford, Cal, SMU are being considered. Florida State's going to jump ship. They're not going to sit around and allow that to happen, even if the revenue sharing is not balanced, right? Where Florida State still gets its due, Stanford and Cal get less, SMU gets zero. Florida State didn't play that game. They didn't come here to make the same amount of money they're making. They want more. They deserve more. Clemson, they're not going to sit around. They're going to follow Florida State. Miami in the same vein, UNC as well. So you got an ACC that's imploding, a Pac-12 that's already imploded, an SEC that's trying to integrate Texas and OU while still navigating where expansion takes them next, and a Big Ten that has Rutgers kicking off against USC on a snowy November night. That's not good. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Big B.
I absolutely understand, man. It is a good time to be in the Big 12. And I know we all look at it from the football aspect, and we should. That's the moneymaker. That's the driving moneymaker. But if you just turn the knob a little to basketball, I don't see how anybody could say that it's not the best basketball conference in the country. Look, obviously I went to K-State. I'm a K-State guy, but I'm a diehard Louisville fan. I grew up there. I was hoping, back when West Virginia got in the Big 12, I was so hoping that Louisville got in. I still think that's a possibility down the road because the ACC is going to dissolve. It's going to meet its maker, unfortunately, just like the Pac-12 did. But I don't see how anybody doesn't believe that this is the best basketball conference in the. I mean, without question, it is. I mean, we're not going to get into a bunch of basketball stuff today, but you just turn that knob a little bit, and my goodness, I mean, the teams are just unbelievable. Getting into that and saying, talking more about the Big 12, let's look at the newcomers this year in football. BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida.
Yeah.
I would say that Central Florida is the best of the bunch as far as this year is concerned. It's going to take the other schools maybe a couple of years. I was surprised how Cincinnati's not as good. I mean, especially coming off playoff loss just a couple of years ago, but their roster turnover, a new coach, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that any of the newbies can compete this year at all? And not necessarily for a title, but do you think they can compete with the other guys and be, let's say, the upper echelon of the conference this year?
Yeah, when I think upper echelon, it's something that used to be much harder. If you finish 7th in the Big 12, you're probably not making a bowl game. Now, if you finish 7th in the Big 12, you're almost guaranteed frankly, you're guaranteed a bowl game because you're in that 5-4 range in conference. I foresee that for a team like UCF. Taking a look at their schedule, Kent State win, Boise State. I'm going to call it a win. It's going to help jolt their season. Villanova's a win. I think they beat Baylor at home for their first Big 12 win. I think they beat Kansas, West Virginia, Cincinnati. Oklahoma State doesn't have a lot of firepower this year. Right. Houston, also a winnable game on their schedule. In my mind, UCF's an 8-4 team. Now, I get it. There are some UCF Knight fans that are screaming, no, we're going to be way better than that. Brother, slow down. Pump the brakes. Everybody calm down. 8-4 for any of these new teams is just beautiful. So few teams make a jump from the group of 5 to the Power 5 and succeed right away. You saw Missouri go to a couple SEC championships right after they left the Big 12. Remember, that's a lateral move. They're going from Power 5 to Power 5. They still had, at the time, Gary Pinkel, they still had Power 5 athletes.
They did.
There's a different realm that these 4 teams have to enter into. I believe from a future standpoint, BYU is the most equipped because they've competed for national championships in their history. They have a couple Heisman winners. They're the most complete program here. But win now mentality, it's UCF all day. They are dangerous. Houston may sneak up on a person or two. Cincinnati could do the same, but UCF is a square 8-4 team for me.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I like UCF. That's going to be a tough game. Kansas State first conference game of the year. That's going to be a tough one to win. Although it's at home, it's going to be.
They will lose to Kansas State. Big B, I know you like hearing that. And I'm not going to reveal my Kansas State pick yet, but you're going to have to ask me at some point in this show.
Absolutely. We will get to it. So looking at the conference as a whole, the pecking order, of conferences. Look, I am a big SEC is top heavy guy. I'm a big, I get that they've won all these national championships in a row. And I understand, and I'll even go as far as to say that they're the best conference. I don't think that the leap or the distance between the SEC, Big 10, and Big 12 as big as what people try to actually make it out to be. I'd like to hear what your thoughts on that actually are.
Well, the Massey rating. What the Massey rating does is it takes a lot of other ratings and puts them all together and says, hey, according to the AP poll, according to the coaches poll, according to the playoff poll, who's the best conference? In the last 5 years, the Big 12 has not finished below second.
Correct.
And 1 year finished first. If that tells you anything, it tells you that there is people say the Big 12 has so much parity. It does. That's because every team's so good.
Right.
The Big 10, there's much less parity. You're seeing a lot of bad football, specifically when your Iowas are playing Northwesterns. And in the SEC, you have your Vanderbilts. You had for a long time, Arkansas was terrible, bottom dweller in that league for 5, 6, 7 years. And in the Big 12, you had Kansas. You don't anymore.
That's right.
There is no Kansas now. I'm in a spot where I think, I really do, I really believe that UCF could go beat Baylor at home and then lose to Kansas this season the next week. because that's the nature of this league. You're going to have some games where you're scratching your head thinking, how would you pick that but not this? Welcome to the Big 12. It's just the way things go in this league. Look at West Virginia last year against TCU. They're a possession away from beating a team that played in the college football national championship, and they finished 4-8.
Right.
That doesn't happen in a lot of other leagues. You have your one-offs. Your A&M will beat Alabama in a down year, but in the Big 12, it's everybody every given week. Blowouts are rare to come by.
Yeah. That's absolutely the way that I look at it. Look, I think that what gets a lot of Big 12 fans mad is when people say that SEC teams, like an Ole Miss or an A&M or Mississippi State would just literally come into their league and dominate. That's where people get so upset. And I'm just like, you should be upset because that is not the truth. Those teams are not coming into not even the ACC. They're just not going there and winning 11, 12 games. That's just not going to happen. It's top heavy league. I get it. I love where the Big 12 is. I love the football aspect of it, where everybody can and has been good. I don't like that Kansas is getting better. I will admit that, but they are getting better. Kansas is getting better. I mean, it's just the flat out the truth, So having said that, and I think you may have kind of spoiled this one. Who is your sleeper team that you have this year in the Big 12? I mean, is it UCF?
UCF is up there without a doubt. And I just don't think being a new team in this league that they can make the jump in year one to compete for a conference championship. I actually don't have Big B a true sleeper here because I foresee Texas Tech being very competitive. Right. I think TCU has been so undervalued by everyone in this conference. I don't know if there is a team outside the top 6. I think there's a defined 6, and it features Texas Tech. It's Kansas State. You've got Texas in there, TCU, and Oklahoma, and then maybe like a wild card of a Baylor, which still wouldn't be that unpopular of a pick. They won the league 2 years ago.
Right.
Right now, there is not a true sleeper here. I don't see Kansas competing for the league. I don't see UCF competing for the league. West Virginia certainly not, or Iowa State. What I do see, and this is kind of on the flip side of that, my poppy take is that neither Texas nor Oklahoma will be in the Big 12 championship. And we need to tell your kids now, like sit them down, have a legitimate conversation with your children. Neither Texas nor Oklahoma will be in the Big 12 championship. It's not going to happen. Both of those teams are going to have underwhelming seasons. I believe the cap right now for the University of Texas Longhorns is 9-3, but I have them at 8-4. They're going to finish 9-3 if they're lucky at this point. And crazy here, history backs it up. Welcome to the last decade of Texas football. Convince me. Every 3 years, we have the same conversation. Sure, it's Texas, but this year is different. And Big B, has it ever been different?
It's never been different. It's literally never been different. It's like the Dallas Cowboys. This is our year. We're winning it all. And the same thing happens every single year. Couldn't happen to a better university, in my opinion, though. It is what it is.
I'm not crying about it.
Yeah,
I'm not crying about it.
Not at all. Not at all. One thing that I did have, so I guess it's a weird way to ask this.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma State. People have been beating my head in about Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State doesn't look on the outside like they got a lot coming back. I know you mentioned it earlier. Terrible coming back. Look at their schedule.
It's terrible.
Yes, it is horrible. Do you give them an opportunity? Now, I don't think they're going to win the conference. I don't think they're going to do anything like that. But I have people talking about they're going to win 3 games. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to win more than 3 games. I think they sneak into a bowl game if they just win half of the home games in conference. I think they can manage that. Do you think anything about Oklahoma State? It's a weird question from a K-State guy. I get it.
Right.
But a lot of people have been asking me that question because I got people thinking they're going to be terrible. And I got people thinking they can win the conference because of that schedule.
All due respect to Oklahoma State fans, because I like a lot of them. There seems to be every Big 12 fan base, I feel like, has your just feel good homers that you think, you know what, I respect that kind of fandom. And I do a lot of Oklahoma State fans.
Right.
And again, so I that's the caveat into this is the single worst, most terrible, awful 9-3 football team to ever exist. because this schedule is so silly. Central Arkansas win, Arizona State win, South Alabama. Congrats. You are an automatic 3-0. Iowa State, they asked me to come play for the football team. They're down so many guys. Woo. That's an automatic 4-0. And then, just in case they're tired, they get a bye. I can't what a bye, right? Then Kansas State, they're going to lose that game at home. Kansas, they win that game at home. They win against West Virginia. They beat Cincinnati. They might just beat Oklahoma at that point due to momentum. And I think they trip up a couple times between UCF, Houston, and BYU, but they could legitimately limp to 9-3. I mean, every game that I just read on that schedule, aside from Kansas State, is a winnable game for Oklahoma State. They could go 11-1 and get embarrassed by somebody in the Big 12 championship and in a bowl game, because Alan Bowman's not a very good quarterback. No. He was benched for 2 years at Michigan to be a quasi coach for the young guys. And now he's being sprung into a starting role, which I think is almost embarrassing for Oklahoma State to have him as their starter. But again, he is set up with what I think is the easiest schedule in the Power Five.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a good good answer. And I know you're not looking for kudos. It was just weird that nobody says they're going to be average. They're going to be great or they're going to stink.
Yeah.
It was just a big question that I had been getting from a lot of people. Another one, and this is more of a personal question for me. Look, they're out of the conference next year, so I don't really care that much. Although Brent Venables was a coach of mine when I was at Kansas State. And he was a young coach, but he was a very good coach. I like him. He left K-State under some crazy circumstances. So with that whole Stoops thing and everything that happened. But I think he's a good coach. I think he knows football. I think he can recruit. I think he motivates guys. It was a bad year last year. Tell me what you think, how OU can bounce back this year, or if you think that he's a guy. Because you hear some national people that they don't believe he's the guy at all. I think the opposite, or maybe I'm just hoping that it's the opposite.
You know, they had the number 4 recruiting class for the transfer portal last year and number 9 this year. So being top 10, albeit nothing new for them, I do believe that's something that speaks a lot about what Brent Venables has done culture-wise in Norman after Lincoln Riley and that mass exodus. Here's your problem. The 44th best team in college football defensively last year. Oklahoma was 23rd offensively. 44th. That means the offense was, and this is kind of tough. It's tough to really build a true comparison, but the offense was twice as good as the defense. How many Brent Venables teams do you see that from? That's not how this is supposed to go.
Absolutely
when you hire
not.
Brent Venables. I just don't. Again, Oklahoma, talk about a 9-3 Oklahoma State team. They'd be the worst 9-3 team of all time. I think Oklahoma will be the most 8-4 team to ever exist. They don't go to Arlington. They finish in the 8-win range this season. And again, I think Dylan Gabriel's a good quarterback, but that defense has a lot to put together. And I'm not sure if they can do it in year 2 under Venables. They're a year 3, year 4 team to really explode.
Got it. Makes sense. I'm not real sold on Gabriel as the quarterback. I know he's solid, but when it comes to elite quarterback play, I'm not sure he's that guy. I'm just not sure he's that guy. 2 more questions for you, and I'll let you get out of here. First one is, do you think let me reverse the order. Kansas State. Do you think Kansas State can repeat as Big 12 champions? I am, and let me preface this. Obviously, I'm a K-State guy. I think Kansas State does repeat. I think they're the best team in the Big 12. Kansas State fans are going to hate me saying that, but my thing is understand the expectations and embrace it. Kansas State has been a fan base for so long that, no, don't pick us high. We don't want anybody to be thinking about us and worrying about us. And I'm like, look, if you're going to be the best, you got to go beat teams when you're supposed to beat them, and you got to go win the tough games. I go, that's what Kansas State needs to do this year. They got a few tough games on the road. They need to go win those games and be the team that we think that we can be. And I think if K-State gets their secondary figured out, I think they can be better than last year. I'm not saying that it's going to be, but I think they can be better than last year, because if they get the secondary figured out, the offense is going to take care of itself. And the reason that I talk about K-State in that fashion, think of any team in the country that brings back 15 starters, their quarterback, and their entire offensive line. they're in the top 10 coming back next year. K-State's at 14, 16, 17. So the disrespect is clearly there. And I tell all K-State fans, be patient. I go, the thing about it is we got to go win these games on the road. I go, when we're supposed to win these games.
Yep.
So go be better. So it's a long-winded question to say, do you think K-State can repeat as Big 12 champs?
Oh, I don't think K-State can repeat as Big 12 champs. I frankly know that Kansas State will repeat as Big 12 champs.
Okay.
They're number one for me, and it's not close. And I don't understand the unwarranted hype around Oklahoma. I can kind of see Texas, why people are going there, but I think a lot of people are missing the boat by not having Kansas State in Arlington this season. And what you're mentioning, Big B, is that number one Colin Klein led team coming to Waco. It's that mentality of don't make us number one. Don't make us number one. We don't want to be number one because that's when things go wrong, right? So many Big 12 teams start to press that panic button, and then you're not the underdog anymore. What do we do? Right. I think Kansas State is going to have to embrace that role of being a big dog in the Big 12. Absolutely. And once this team does, they're fine. I mean, Southeast Missouri, obvious win. Troy's a win. At Missouri, I don't think they have any issue winning at Mizzou. No. UCF is a win at home. At Oklahoma State, that's a win. Oklahoma State's not good. At Texas Tech, that's the one loss I have in the Kansas State regular season. I foresee a night game in Lubbock. I like what Texas Tech has. Wait for the rematch in Arlington. TCU at home, that's a win. Houston at home, a win. At Texas, I still love Kansas State. Baylor at home is a win. At Kansas, it's obvious. At against Iowa State at home, it's obvious. That's 11-1. And then a rematch against Joey McGuire-led Texas Tech in Arlington to win the Big 12 championship for the second year in a row. And I, unpopular as it may be for some reason, have Kansas State in the college football playoff.
That was literally going to be my next question. Do you think another Big 12 team can make it to the college playoff? And with the respect, and for me, if K-State goes 11-1, then goes on and wins the Big 12, you get to 12-1 in the Big 12, and you're telling me that team doesn't make the playoff, then they shouldn't even have a playoff anymore, in my opinion.
Yep.
So
yeah, we're sitting in a spot right now for sure where Kansas State, it's not going to be the same as TCU. I don't see anybody going 12-0 in the regular season. So I'm sure a couple Kansas State fans will say, "Oh, we'll beat Tech, for sure in the regular season." At some point, everybody's going to slip up in this league. There's too much parity not to. But once you get to the Big 12 championship and you win that, maybe it takes a domino at the top, right? Alabama faces Georgia in the SEC championship. They lose. They fall to 11-2. Now 12-1 conference champion Kansas State makes it into the college football playoff instead of 11-2 Alabama. It's going to take some of that at the top. I know the Pac-12 will not have anyone represent the league in the playoff. I'm confident the ACC will struggle to do so because I love the Florida State hype. They're not going to finish unscathed, and you might have to in the ACC. And then it's the SEC and the Big Ten. Obviously, they're going to get one, maybe two teams in. That happens every year. The Big 12, similar to last year, will get a team in, and it will be Kansas State.
Absolutely. I believe the same thing. I've got the same prediction. I don't believe anybody from the ACC. Look, I get the Florida State hype. I understand all that. I'm still not sold on Florida. First of all, I think Florida State loses the first game of the season to LSU. So that for me, but other than that, I think Kansas State's got as good a chance as anybody. And again, I have told the fans, embrace the expectations. It's okay to be good, go out and play good, and people expect you to be good. So, man, Drake, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I am so glad that you were able to make time to come on and talk to us a little bit about some Big 12 football, man. So, anytime you are available in the future, I will be more than willing and love to have you back, man.
Anytime you reach out, man, Big B, don't be a stranger. Make it regular. I won't miss you again. You'll be top of my schedule.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate it.